If you want to stay in the same situation, then continue doing what you're doing.
And you guys can get on board and go down this 4-lane highway and just rock it out, and you don't have to have a decade of learning process.
Meet people where they are. If you want to have all types of clients, be a Rubik's Cuber. Meet them where they want to be met.
We have to know our numbers. We have to know how much we want, and then how many deals do I have to close to make that a reality?
What I want to do over the next half hour or so is give you clarity on the items that really are going to generate money for you and allow you to do the things you want to do.
So if you're not currently being coached by the people in the industry that are doing it at the highest level, then you're working too hard to get there.
This is the Next Level Loan Officers Podcast with Kenneth Travis and Sean Zalmanoff.
Good morning, everybody. Sean Zalmanoff here on our Next Level Loan Officers Podcast with my man, Kenneth Travis. Kenneth, how are you this morning?
Oh, man, I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing awesome. And we are here with a friend of Next Level, and a man that was an amazing loan officer, runs a great branch now. Not that you're not an amazing loan officer. You've just evolved, Brian. And also, as we were talking before, just a serial entrepreneur. He's got another company of an entire CRM product that he's rolled out for the industry. Brian Bomar, please introduce yourself.
Sean, thanks so much for the warm introduction. Kenneth, thank you for being on the call. As you guys were saying, started off as a loan officer. In the crash of 2007, my company shut down. We got an email about 20 minutes before a closing I had say, hey guys, we don't have any money. I actually had to call clients that were driving to closing and tell them we didn't have any money. So had to figure out what to do next, decided to start my own branch. And we opened a branch for Cornerstone Home Lending here in Oklahoma City, didn't have any presence or anything, and just kind of built that up to be, eventually, initially the number one mortgage company in the Oklahoma City metro area, grew that to be the number one purchase money lender in the state of Oklahoma. And since then, we've been able to expand that model and, open up in a few other new states. And so this year we've got about 22 loan officers, and we'll do about 3,700 units with those 22 loan officers this year. So most people in kind of areas of leadership will typically say that my guys have about the highest production per person in the industry. Obviously the stats aren't published and available, but we average around 190 units per year per loan officer going back since we opened 11 years ago. Some years a little bit higher, some years a little bit lower, depending on kind of who's new in the system or if we just have a bunch of vets in the system that year.
Yeah, I would definitely tell you 190 units average per loan officer is going to be at the top of the industry. You were also, was it you or is it your wife that was the first $100 million producer in Oklahoma as well?
So the Bomar team was the team that did that. That was my wife and I together. That was in 2012. 2013 was my last year to actually originate. By that time, my leadership duties kind of got too big for me to do both well, so I just focused on leadership. She still originates. She'll probably do about 85 million herself this year, so I guess I was good for about 15 million. And she typically, we always ran about 80 to 90% purchase. The year we did 100 million, it was a little bit higher on the refi mix. We're probably about 75 purchase, 25, 30 refi. And I remember the last December of 2012, we actually personally funded 79 units for about $22 million in a month. Or was it, maybe it was 89. I don't know. It was a lot, 80 or 90 loans for 20 million and change in 1 month. Most of that was refis, but it was good. That was when the rates dropped to 3.25, and it was a good year.
There's a lot of loan officers listening right now that maybe either weren't around in 2012, or if they were around in 2012 are saying, man, you were doing 70, 75% purchase business then. It obviously is the way to go. Those of us who have followed that path are having the success right now. Those of us who didn't have either had to pivot or you're not closing very many refis right now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What were the decisions in your career that you knew that the purchase market was the way to go?
Well, I mean, to me, it was always painfully obvious that if you were someone who was always focused on refinances, then eventually your destiny wasn't in your own control, Sean. I mean, a refinance is purely a function of a rate that's low enough for the deal to be beneficial and make sense. And in different markets, if it's a rate term refinance, that threshold's different based on how big the loan is. If it's a cash out, you still can be opted out of a deal because the rate difference is too high on a cash out. But I didn't like my destiny not being in my own control, and I knew that was eventually going away. So why spend 5-10 years building something that I was really, really happy with, knowing that at some point, I don't know when, but someday those rates will go up, that business will go away, and we have to completely recreate ourselves. And that's hard. And there are a lot of people trying to do that right now, and they're struggling. We also knew that there was an opportunity that if we really served the purchase market well, the real estate community well, realtors and builders well, we knew that there were going to be competitors that would be squeezed when their refinances went away, and we would kind of be that. I actually showed this video to my loan officers 2 weeks ago. The clip out of Forrest Gump where Lieutenant Dan is on the mast of the ship and he's cursing the storm, and they survive. And when it's done, they're the only shrimp boat left. And so I've known it was very intuitive to know that at some point there was going to be a lot of people leave the industry. Whether it be loan officers get out, whether it be branches shut down, or whether it be whole companies. Because of my position in the industry now, I get access to kind of executive level data. And I know there's just a lot of mortgage companies right now that are really, really struggling. A lot of independents, a lot of banks. And I think there will be less competition, by the end of first quarter 2019. I don't wish that on anybody, but strategically we knew that was going to happen. And sometimes we even made sacrifices. I remember, obviously if you're in the purchase business, kind of January and February are always slow. March begins to build up and you crescendo in July, August, and kind of that time of the year in most markets, at least in my markets, that's kind of the way that it works. And I remember there was I don't know, a year or two ago, there was a July or an August where we had rates drop significantly, back into the low 3s or mid 3s or just something below where they had been for 6 months. And it created a refinance opportunity. But it was the middle of the busy season and our pipelines were completely full and we really didn't have room to take on a whole lot of business because, we measure all of our individual processors, individual capacities, and we just knew that we were booked up. And I didn't want to aggressively go after refinance business. And then when our referral partners came in and said, hey, we need to close a deal in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks or whatever, have to tell them no because we had gone so aggressively. Our database is of a size that if we aggressively target refinances, then we're going to add, 100 units or 200 units or 400, like we can add a lot of units really quick across all my loan officers and all my branches. So I didn't want to do that. And then by the time the pipelines kind of simmered down a little bit, the rates had gone back up. So we missed that opportunity. But that wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't really so much a missed opportunity. It was more of just an investment into those relationships that drive purchase business. And so that's always been our commitment. That's always been first. And we always love it when rates would drop in the wintertime because we always had extra capacity. But summertime, it's really eye on the prize with the purchase market. And so we're doing well. This year, my group of branches, we're up 10% in units. And I think the industry's down about 15, maybe 20% right now. So it's gone well. It's worked out well for us.
That's awesome. The key thing, like what you were just talking about in that summer, being able to service the people who mattered the most, and not that the clients that you could have saved money don't matter greatly. But man, all of a sudden you sacrifice relationships for some extra now money.
Yeah,
you'd be in a different position right now, and we'd all would. And that's a really key point for anybody listening to this podcast in any kind of industry to really think about who you serve and who serves us the best, to make sure that you always put your A players and your A clients in that bucket to take care of them.
Yeah, we always tell our guys, give your best to your best and the rest to the rest. And I'm sure I heard that from someone, but somewhere, but that's just the mindset. It's like, okay, what's our best relationships? Where's our best, segment of the market? Okay, let's give our best there. And then anything that's left over after that is available for the rest.
Cool. So what, there's loan officers on this podcast. I want to talk about your CRM and your serial entrepreneurism because you're doing some great things in the market. So, there's guys listening to this, there's ladies listening to this right now. They're saying, so they're closing 190 transactions. So what year did you start in the business, by the way?
2005.
2005.
So I've been in 13 years.
So it was great, and then fell off a cliff as far as how easy it was and then how hard it was to do loans.
Yeah, it was crazy. We would, I remember I still actually have a list of all the subprime lenders. Like we would pull someone's credit, they'd have a 550 credit score, and I'd just print off the pack and fax it to like 8 subprime lenders, and I'd get my price quotes the next morning. We could get them 100% financing. It was crazy. So it was
with stated income.
Yeah, with stated income and no nothing. So it was one day out of foreclosure, one day out of bankruptcy, all that stuff. So it was super easy back then.
AT, they still do those loans in East Texas, right?
Man, every day, baby. Yeah, we're still checking pulses, man, out here. Like if you're alive, man, you're approved.
So Brian, what did you do like your first few years to get started? Obviously, you went right into the purchase business.
Yeah.
And, what did you do to start building those relationships and set yourself up for the success that you and your team is enjoying now?
Yeah. So a few things. One is we actually started off, where a lot of loan officers start off kind of as a backup lender, to the good lenders, so we would take the B and C deals, subprime loans, and really, what we learned in that is that it was really almost impossible to kind of start off as the backup lender who took the hard loans and then mentally, psychologically transition with a referral partner to be their A lender. It seemed like they would go get a new A lender and we would always be the B or the C lender, just the perception. So we actually had to just actually start going after entirely new relationships and saying, no, we're actually not a B and C lender. We'll do those if you need them, but we're actually an A lender. We want all your good clients. All your good deals. And so that was one thing that seems a little counterintuitive. I see people all the time. I want to get into renovation products and 203K loans and this and that. And if I can just get my foot in the door, then I'll be able to flip and get all the business. And I don't see that happen much, and it certainly didn't happen for us. And so that was kind of a big thing, is kind of positioning ourselves as, no, we are the A lender. And we want first crack at everything, but we had to go get entirely new relationships because people just saw us in a different light. The other thing, which really seems maybe basic, but it's a big thing, is it was just a massive commitment to excellence. We had worked in a couple places where the leadership did not have standards in the office. They didn't hold people accountable. There wasn't standards around how we would process a file and the kind of service standards that we would commit to. And so it was just chaos. And I was so frustrated. My biggest motivation to go out and to be in leadership was just so that we could create an environment where excellence really thrived and where everybody was really committed to it, because I couldn't find other leaders who had that same commitment to excellence. And when you had that commitment to excellence, there was all these kind of tertiary effects where the consistency caused people to trust you more. And they began to, want all their clients to use you, and the consistency and the excellence, would allow a loan officer who had really great sales ability, but maybe had lacked kind of the operational back end. It would allow them to come in and double and triple and quadruple their volume, because now they actually had a platform that they could trust in and they could rely upon. So really, when you go to these sales conferences, there's a lot of talk about just sales skills and sales disciplines, and we invest significantly in that. But at the exact same time, on a parallel track, we're investing significantly always into operational excellence and making sure we've got really great talent on the team, because you need great sales to kind of pay for great operations. But you need great operations to provide the channel for great sales to really thrive in. And I always tell people that a loan is like a loan being executed well. It's really a partnership between a great loan officer and a great company. And if it falls apart, you don't know if it was the loan officer that made a mistake or the company that made a mistake. But for it to really thrive, you need you need both players to kind of hold their part. And I didn't find leaders in my past that were super interested in running the back end. They just wanted to make money and get their overrides or whatever. And so that was huge, just having operational excellence, not missing closing dates, having stuff, ready early, on time, and even early, and creating a great experience for the customers. And even now, if you, I've not looked at this in the last couple months, but typically every time I, pull up any office that that I have a market in, or any market that I have an office in, we typically have more Google ratings, more Zillow ratings, more Facebook reviews, and all that than any other competitor. Sometimes than all the competitors combined. So we've got a really strong online review presence, and that's a combination again of creating great experiences for the customer, and kind of leading from a client experience standpoint, but also having really great back end operations. And then once you have that in place, you plug in great loan officers or potentially great loan officers that you give the skills and the training and the scripting and all the mindset stuff, and kind of plug that into them.
KT, how many times have I heard you tell somebody, be careful what you ask for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You gotta, yeah. I mean, Brian, you're hitting the nail on the head. You're speaking my language, and we are obviously drinking the same cup when it comes to this stuff. But, I was writing some notes down as you were talking, and what I realized from a loan officer perspective or loan officer's perspective, and you said it when you were talking about, I cut my teeth. I was the second fiddle lender as well for so many years. And that's kind of where we cut our teeth. That's where we learn. That's where we become to have the knowledge that we have about our business, and where we create relationships. But man, it is a hard thing to do is to change, because we are what we accept. And Jack, if you accept challenge credit borrowers who are just really hard files to get done, and you become a hero at the closing table, well, people with challenge credit or people with bad credit, they have friends who have bad credit and have challenge credit a lot of times too. And so you just become what you accept. And sometimes those transactions can be reputation killers, right? Because you're doing the best you can as a loan officer with what you're working with, right? Yeah. And sometimes those challenge credit borrowers, and you become a known lender in your community if you're taking those deals exclusively. And that's like you become the bad credit lender, the second class loan officer in town, and that's just not a good place to be. And similar to your story, man, I kind of came up, there was a day that I woke up and said, okay, this is going to be hard, but I'm going to say no to these challenge credit deals moving forward, and I'm going to say yes to good credit files, and I'm going to wow them with a customer experience and operational excellence that you spoke about. And no, I'm not going to be a jack of all trades, a master of none. I don't try to sell every product out there just to get a deal done. Yeah. Like, I stick with what we're good at. Our teams, our loan officers, our staff, we do what we're good at, right? And if it's a one-off thing here or there, we're a lot better referring that out to someone who may do a lot of that. So, so we can dominate. But I mean, you just bring up just this is a fire hydrant of golden nuggets right here of just some things that you spoke about and something that we talk about. But, you have to create, like in today's market especially, and I tell people this all the time, dude, like you have to know who you are in this marketplace. Mm-hmm. You have to know who you are as a branch manager. You have to know who you are as a loan officer. You have to know who you are from terms of like how you're going, because there's so many different business models within the industry. You have to get in where you fit in, like exactly who you're going to be. But you said something that just wows me. That's like, yes, finally someone gets it, And that's creating, because this is what loan officers do. You got loan officers and your operation people, and they do this all the time. And there's and similar to your story, man, I got to a point to where I was like, man, there's just no extreme ownership taking place on either side, right?
Right.
And you have to create that. And the only way you create that is you lead it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you lead, you can create that in ways that you see fit are going to serve your loan officers and serve your staff people, because what happens is you get the best processors in town, but then they got shitty loan officers that they're representing, and they get burned out and stressed out, and they don't want to work for them anymore, and they leave. Or
Yeah.
you have really good salespeople, and then you have really shitty processors or operational people. And you have to balance that. And it sounds like to me, just based on the short time that we spoke, you've got that dialed in, and it's so hard for people to do. But, one of the things I like to remind people is like, man, it's a process, right? Like it's like that stuff didn't happen overnight for you. You've been in it since 2005. And Sean and I often have to remind people that, hey man, this isn't a sprint. Like this is a long process. And people get there, they have seasons where they work quicker and get things done, more easily than they do other seasons. But it does take time. So what is your, like, if you look back from 2005 until today, like, how do you feel about that? Like the accomplishment that it made? I mean, it's like, wow, like, you know what I mean? And so like, you've got so much that you can offer people. And I know you talk to people, because I talk to people all the time, and I'm like, oh man, like they just asked me a question. I'm really not sure where to go with them with it yet.
Yeah.
So much, like, dude, you got so much, like you're putting the cart for the horse. You know what I'm saying? So we have these conversations. So what would you tell someone that may be in a season of like, they don't know what they want to do? Like,
yeah. Well, I think that when I got started as a leader in the industry, I didn't quite understand what I'm about to say, but now it's so evident and it's so obvious to me. But really, an organization is going to look like its leader. It's going to take on the characteristics and the traits of its leader. It's going to accept the things that the leader accepts, and it's going to reject the things that the leader rejects. And so the first tip to creating a great organization is make sure you yourself are a great leader. Somebody who, and I'm not saying that I'm a great leader, but I am better than I was 11 years ago when I got into leadership, and I'm always striving to be better. But I've come a long way. And again, I still have, more that I could do, but if your organization doesn't look like what you want it to look like, I mean, look at yourself. Do you possess the traits that you think that a leader of the team you envision would have? And that's the first place to start, and so there's a lot, for me, I'm a highly driven guy. I'm real hard on myself. When I got started, I found out that I was probably hard on my team as well. I had to learn how to balance that. And again, to be a leader that a lot of different types of people could work for, not just like the super hard charging types, because you're not going to be able to fill an office only with those types of folks. Significant, almost to the point of a painful sacrifice commitment to talent. Like we made a lot of these mistakes up front, but now I've learned that if we can't find the right person for the role, we're just going to do without, even if it hurts, even if we're struggling, and I'm just going to wait and be patient. Right now, not with loan officers, but in all of our salaried positions. Presently, we make one hire for every 143 resumes we get. So it's an extreme vetting process to try to find the very best and the very brightest. And then to be a great leader as far as engaging, as far as showing your appreciation. I was real grateful. In 2016, we're actually named the top employer in the state of Oklahoma from all the surveys that our team members fill out. And then in 2017, we came in number 3. So which is still great with all the different companies that are here. But that's not something that came natural to me, is, showing people extreme appreciation and, celebrating with them. It still doesn't come, the celebrating part doesn't come that naturally. You asked about looking back. I'm bad about not looking back and enjoying. I usually, whatever I've accomplished, I'm just on to the next thing. And I could probably get better at celebrating and kind of enjoying the success more. And I know a lot of driven people that would probably say the same thing. But so the first thing is just, always be working on yourself as a leader, always be taking in great books, really so much of leadership is about emotional intelligence and knowing the way that your actions and words are impacting the emotions of others. And then also understanding how other people's words and actions are affecting your emotions, and learning how to not be, sometimes be more moved by them, or sometimes be less moved by them. But there's so much in the field of emotional intelligence. And you know, I've had coaching in my life for about 10 years, but for the last several years, almost all my coaching is always geared around emotional intelligence. And that's so much is what leadership's about. And then after you've worked on yourself, I would say that my preference is, a lot of people have situational success, which means like for instance, a loan officer hires someone from their family to be on their team, and it works out really well. Pure luck. But it works out amazingly. And for 3 or 4 years, they've got this great team and they're doing great numbers and things are running like clockwork. And then that person moves on, and then they just try it again. They go out and just grab someone randomly from the world and plug them in, and it's a nightmare. And then they're just like being drugged by the horse and hitting their head along the road. That's the difference between situational success and systemic success. I don't ever feel comfortable whenever I've had situational success, which means I just got lucky and it worked. I'm always trying to find a systemic approach to success, where how can I make sure that this thing that I'm doing is repeatable and I can do the same thing over and over and over again. And that's one thing when you're talking about maybe getting a lead, or getting an application or closing a loan. But when you start looking at building a team member, scaling loan officers up, putting in client experience, running operations, that's where I spend most of my time today. Is like when things break down, I don't want to just necessarily go in and fix the breakdown. I want to look at the system and say, how did the system allow for this breakdown to occur? And is there a way where I can fix the system where this type of a breakdown is either impossible or highly unlikely because of all the things in place? We've got, this is just a minor example, but we got stung a long time ago where a client was showing up to closing and their cash to close was like $1,500 higher or $2,000 higher. And it was a first time home buyer. That was a lot of money for them. And we looked in and it was clear we quote them we estimated $1,000 a year for homeowners insurance, which was a fair amount. And they went and got a quote for, $3,000 a year, $2,500. It was significantly higher. Well, I realized that we had just gotten lucky up to that point. This was years ago, but we had gotten lucky up to that point that we just hadn't had that happen where it caused a big blow up. It wasn't really our fault, but we modified our system. So that's one thing that we check for. And if the insurance quote comes in higher than our estimates, we give them a notification. We let them know kind of the ramifications of that change. Not that it's necessarily even it's our responsibility, but we did want to make that part of our system. Another part of our system is we verify the real estate agent order title work, because we've had it happen before where they didn't, and again, so we're always focused on the system. How do we make the system better? How do we improve that and make it more thorough so it's harder and harder for things to slip through the cracks? We do the same thing with building loan officers teams, coaching, developing them, running ops, client experience, sales, marketing, automation, all that kind of stuff. Always trying to create systemic success versus situational success.
There's a couple things, golden nuggets, that you both were just talking about here. One, it may not be our job to go back and check that insurance, but gosh, if there is a 1% chance that I can affect change, and man, I sure as heck better own that and figure out how to make it better for everybody involved in the transaction. And so the number of times really in my career where people were pointing fingers and trying to blame each other, and so they're just saying, hey, okay, so let's just pretend I'll just take responsibility. It's all my fault. Now, how do we fix it?
Yeah.
You can cut through 2 days of garbage, of blaming, and just get a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
The other thing too, like you were just talking about, Brian, and we got to break the system sometimes. I mean, the mortgage business is ever evolving, sales systems. Like, there's just sometimes, and they don't have to be huge breaks, but like, it's okay. You fix it, make the widget better, you move on.
Yeah.
And you all are listening to this right now, and not to toot our own horns too much, but you have 3 pretty big producers who are running several branches, and employing and helping a lot of people in the industry right now. And guys, every single one of us has a coach. You know,
Yeah.
whether you join us at Next Level or join something else where Brian's doing to, you know, improve your emotional intelligence. I mean, do something to better yourself. It's going to pay massive dividends for you. And you guys were both talking earlier about knowing who you are. And when I was here in Utah, KT, and when I was here in Utah, Brian, like if you go to that realtor and you're like, hey, well, man, I'm happy to be your backup. Or when I just heard the confidence that was coming out of both you, listen, I'm here to be your number one lender. We have a commitment to excellence. We are a 10. You will see that when you use us. Like I have people every day that are like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to go after the top 50 agents in our market because they're working with somebody. Well, yes, that's why you want to go after them, because you're working with somebody and they're doing business, and those are the relationships that you want that can make you the most money. So,
Yeah.
man, thank you.
Yeah.
Brian, I wanted to give you an opportunity because as you built your career and your branches and your mortgage business, you developed a lot of systems that worked really well for you. And you've put those in place for the loan officers that work with you. And you're now, you've got this product called Whiteboard CRM that's been around for a few years. You just got is it okay if I share the, yeah, I mean, you just got some capital money to take it to the next level, and man, you're having a lot of success with it. So tell people a little bit about it and kind of, you know, what makes it different than a lot of the other CRMs out there for them.
Yeah, that's a good. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. So we, you know, my background was technology. When I was 19, I went to go work at a local tech company, and I was their top sales guy and moved into management, had my own developer. So I've actually been building my own CRM since I was 19 or 20 years old. But when I retired from my first stint in technology and got in the mortgage business, you know, we ran a sales team there very systematized, and there wasn't anything left to chance. Every day, you know, our systems would tell you exactly what to do to have success. And when we came in the mortgage world, no one really seemed to operate that way. It was always just kind of ad hoc, flying by the seat of your pants, you know, just big old stacks, mountains of papers all over the office. And I really didn't like that. So I was always striving to implement a sales and follow up and client experience kind of approach. And we tried a lot of different things for those, you know, really the first probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. We tried ACT, we tried a lot of different CRMs. There's actually some CRMs out there that if you look in the Google cache, you'll find my name on there as a testimonial. They've taken it down, but you can still find it in Google's records. But anyway, I spent a lot of time, and really I was just frustrated for a couple reasons. One, it seemed clear that the guys building this stuff weren't really in the business. They didn't really know what we did. And they kind of missed what I thought were some of the most important things, like the user experience and usability, and just kind of when you log in, does this feel natural for what I do on a day-to-day basis? And then I also really felt that a lot of the systems weren't flexible and dynamic, where they could support a small loan officer or a huge loan officer, you know, funding 400 loans a year with a big team and all those kinds of things, and all the unique needs that come up from that. And so after trying to buy everything that was available off the shelf, and then also trying to buy some of the big kind of global CRM products and hire consultants to come in and outfit them, and being frustrated and having failures there, we eventually decided I'm just going to build my own. I know how to do it. I've got the connections. And by that time, we were kind of big enough to justify the expense. And so we built Whiteboard. The fundamental difference, and we launched a little over 3 years ago. It's gone great. We've had a lot of growth every year. Housing Wire's named us one of the 100 most innovative companies in real estate technology the last couple years. Some other notables are like Zillow and Redfin and Quicken Loans, Rocket Mortgage. So big companies win that award, and we've won that. And we just closed a big Series A funding. But without getting too techie or too specific about it, I'd say the fundamental difference is that where a lot of technology platforms are built by tech guys who think they have an idea that they can sell to the mortgage industry, Whiteboard was built by a guy that's in it, doing it daily. Like if you walk through my office, you'll see Whiteboard up on almost every screen, and that's our main system where we're driving our sales, our follow-up, all the things that we do. And so it was built by someone in the industry, not by someone outside the industry. And I can't overstate the value of that, but more importantly than how it was built, also the future of it is going to be continue to be built by top producers in the industry versus people outside the industry. So right outside my office here, I've got in Oklahoma City, we've got about 80 team members, 11 or 12 loan officers, and a lot of staff, support staff, operations, and team members. But right outside our outside our side door, I've got my whiteboard office, and I've got all my developers and my success team over there. And so literally, like right now, I'm looking at one of my whiteboard developers. He's standing outside one of my cornerstone team members, and they're talking, and he's saying, how does this look for you? How does this work? Is this the way you envisioned it? So not just where we're at today, but also the future is going to be continued developed by what top producers are perceiving their needs and what they need to be more effective and more efficient and to drive their business to new and new heights. So that's kind of the foundational difference. Now, specifically, we do a lot of cool stuff with our architecture, how dynamic and easy it is to customize. We use a really cool technology we built called Playbooks, where we set someone up on day one. So something similar to what we do from a sales, marketing, and follow-up standpoint. A new loan officer is going to get a version of that installed into their whiteboard playbook on day one, and they're up and running with that. We're going to coach people how to use the CRM, how to get the best results out of it. We can add, we do a ton of personalization and customization, and we can even go build as many custom campaigns or anything like that somebody wants. We do a bunch of cool stuff with texting, and we're finding huge value through SMS texting right now. It's really the best form of automated and digital communication available because the response rates are so high and the response time is so fast. So there's a lot of cool things from a spec deal. We typically find when someone demos a competitor and they demo ours, lights out. They love ours. They love the way it looks. They love the way it feels. So they'll say things like, it looks like it was really built by somebody who knows the business, but also has got a lot of cool power and horsepower under the hood as well.
Nice. Hey, I appreciate your time, KT. I appreciate your time. You're mentioning about the CRM built by somebody in the industry. Guys, there's a lot of coaches out there too. It really benefits you to be coached by somebody who's in the industry.
I agree to that. Yeah, absolutely.
We are here to help you with that. We're here for, if you want to sign up for your free strategy session, let us know. You can click the links below or reach out to us via email or phone. Brian, if somebody wanted to reach you to find out more about your CRM, how would they do that?
You can Google, you can just pull up the website, whiteboardcrm.com. You can send me an email. My mortgage email is bbomar@houseloan.com, and my whiteboard email is brian.bomar@whiteboardcrm.com. So you can email me either one of those, and I'll get it, and I'll get you in good hands and get the ball rolling for you.
Awesome. Well, Brian, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
As always. Thank you all for joining us today on this episode of Next Level Loan Officers Podcast, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.